Hi everybody, good evening, welcome to the United Stands. We're about to rank every single Manchester United player's season out of 10. It's going to be interactive and I'm going to give you my score as well. We're sort of going to do it a little bit like The Gladiator. Remember the Gladiator film where it's thumbs up, thumb down? Well, we'll be doing that based on what you're saying as well. Lots to get into. We're not really going to do anything topical. There's so many players to go through. You'll see their pictures next to me in a moment. Look, randomly, I could just go Wan-Bissaka and we could do him. But we're not going to start with Wan-Bissaka. But this is going to be very exciting. Friday night show, always a little bit different. Prepare for the unexpected. That's all I'm going to say. But before we get into all of that, we are sponsored by Boohooman on the show. You know the score with Boohooman. You use the code Goldbridge. You get on the website. You buy yourself some lovely clobber. They've got stuff like this, which I'm not wearing because I've just got in from a night out for a meal. But there you go. Lovely fleece-lined hoodie, keep you nice and warm when you're relaxing on an evening in a pair of jogging bottoms or maybe shorts or maybe nothing else. Who knows? Use your imagination. You get 10% off with that code Goldbridge on the website by scanning the QR code or by going through the link in the description. Big shout out to Boohooman, but as always, they've got a bit of trivia for you. I was born in France on August the 9th, 1977. I began my career at Rennes in 1996 before moving to Inter Milan in 1998. After 18 games for Milan, I joined United for 4 million, choosing United over Liverpool. I played in various defensive positions, but played most of my games at left back, finding myself as the replacement for club legend Dennis Irwin. During my time at the club, I won the Premier League 4 times and the FA Cup, League Cup, Champions League and Intercontinental Cup once. I left United to join Arsenal in 2008 and I am French. If you can get in the chat and tell us who that's all about. Don't forget, Boohooman, scan the QR code, link in the description, 10% off with the code Goldbridge. Get yourself some fantastic clobber with that discount. Big shout out to Boohooman. But I'm excited. It's not Nani. It's not Nani. Who can get it? It's not Evra. Evra is a good guess, but it's not Evra. Daniel Home, well done. It's Daniel Home who says Sylvester. Eternal says, will you play Girth and Turf tonight? Well, I didn't get asked last night, and then I got asked. I was free last night. I didn't get asked. I get asked tonight. I've been down the pub. I can't play and drink. No way. No way. McTominay better get a high score, pal, says Just Kevin. Welcome to Members Club Orliff. Mitchell McCready as well. Right, let's get into this. We are ranking every Manchester United player season so far. It's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. What I will do is I will put a player up. We'll have a little bit of a chat about it. You will start clicking. Basically, what you'll start doing is you'll start clicking a number. A number between, 1 and 10. Remember when we do the player ratings on a match? We do it marking every player out of 10, 6 being the average. So that's how we're going to do it. Simple as that. No one talk about Onana's graveyard shift. No defenders wants the ball short and our wide players don't win long balls. He also faced 4th most shots, mate. OG, come on. You're not going to get sympathy vote with Goldbridge on a Friday night. Onana, it's got nothing to do with people showing for the ball. He was letting goals in. They were straight at him and he was letting him in. He had a shit start to the season. Stop trying to find an excuse. It's got nothing to do with distribution. He was bloody shit up until Christmas. Call it how it is. If you're going to watch football, don't be an idiot and start burying lies like a cat burying crap in the mud. Because it did happen. I, Mark, just got back from an 8-hour McDonald's shift. Burrito and United Stand Friday night. Bosh. Up the mags, says Brendan Rodgers. There we go. Our first player then. Oh, so, you know what? Sod it. Let's do an honour. Strike while the iron's hot. So 6 would be average. 7 good. 8 very good. 9 brilliant. 10 flawless. 5 below average. 4 poor. 3 very bad. 2 crap. 1 get your coat. So what would you rank Onana out of 10 this season so far? Get your numbers in the chat and I will go like that as to whether I agree with you. What you been doing today, Mark? Well, obviously I've been to the pub for a meal. You can tell by the way my words aren't coming out as well as they normally would. But this afternoon we watched a really good film actually. We watched the new Charlie Chocolate Factory film, which was a prequel, which surprised me. And we also watched Watership Down, which is a film about rabbits that some of them get killed. It's quite a sad film, actually. Which I'll ask you a question. What's the saddest part of a film for you? Because I was thinking about this. We were talking about it in the pub when we were having a meal. What's the saddest bit from a film? Obviously, the normal stuff. Saving Private Ryan was very sad. I'm not going to say anything because it actually happened. Bambi was a cartoon. That was sad. A drawn fucking deer gets shot. It's not a real deer. It's a bloody cartoon deer. You know, I could draw that. Oh, look. A cartoon man falls in front of a fucking shark and gets eaten in two. It's not real. It's a cartoon. Saddest bit from a film for me is Kate Winslet surviving in Titanic. I just think, you know, she's on the door. There was room for two, and she just pushed him off and let him sink. And I thought, you know what? I hope she freezes on that door. I hope she does. If equality is a real thing, she's going to freeze to death on that door. Blows a fucking whistle. Some Welsh prat comes and fishes her out like a bloody... I nearly said whale. That's not what I meant. Fish. And she survives. Saddest bit in a film. I really, really wanted her to freeze on that door. Not Kate Winslet in real life. The selfish rose cow who killed Jack. Anyway, get on with it. Right. Onana. It's a Friday night. Chill out. You know, the hipsters will watch this and go, oh, this is going to be really interesting. Then they'll go, oh, I can't believe he's talking like that. Who does he think he is? Right. Okay. Let's move. So we've got a lot of sixes. We've got a lot of sixes here for Onana. A few fours. Somebody's gone with a 7. Bloody hell. You know, recency bias or what? 7. What are you talking about? 5, 6. Okay, the average is 6. Do I agree? I'm like the guy off Gladiator. Good Easter film. 5 or 6. We're going to go with a 6. I'm going to go with a 6. I'm going to go with an average 6 for Onana this season. I think he had a terrible start to the season. I would admit that. Absolutely terrible start to the season. And he did cost us Champions League football. There's no way, two ways about it. Some of the goals he let in were tragic. But since Christmas, he's been a lot better. Look, it's not a good season to have an average 6 as a £50 million signing. In some ways, it's not great, is it? But I think he's turned around the start of the season into an average 6 for me. So I would agree with you on that lot. I would give him a 6. This one should be quite quick and easy. Anthony Martial. What would you give Martial this season? Let me have a think. I mean, look, he's barely played. I do like Martial. Injury prone, definitely. But I do like Martial. I just think that I like him, but the injuries, it's got. I know I've got a number in my head. I'm getting the word. I'm getting the number. Yeah, okay, I've got it. So Dennis says a 4. Joel says a 6. Vicar says a 6. What you been drinking? Engine oil? What you on a? What you drink? What you talk? 6 for Martial. Oh God! You know, no wonder Southgate gets linked to our club. 6 average. He's not played. What are you talking about? 6. Get out. Moderators, block them. Anyone who does a 6, I don't care if it affects the views. Get rid of them. Absolute idiots. Nivisi says 4. Viander says 4. Breakline says 4. Ghost. Yeah, lots of 4s. I'm actually gonna I've ruined that one. Do I agree with a 4? You will be voting at the end of the show for your player of the season as well, which we will depict from what you've given here. Do I agree with a 4? No. I disagree with a 4. 3. 4 is very bad. 3 is horrific. I think he's had a horrific season for Manchester United. So for me, it's not even a 4. It's a 3. Terrible season for Martial. This is a good one. Raphael Varane, what would you give him this season? Massively underrated player. Some people have spoken about selling him. We've had all these injuries since January. Maguire was injured in January. Martinez got injured again. Varane, he can't play 2 games a week. And then suddenly, for the last 2 months, when we've really needed, we've been down to the barrel. We've been scraping the bottom of the barrel on centre-backs. And Raphael Varane has somehow found the ability to play 2 games a week, play every week. He's been absolutely essential for us over the last couple of months. I would agree with the majority of the chat. We've got 7.5s, 1 or 2 6s, 1 or 2 8s, but the vast majority are a 7. I'm going to say yes, I agree. I think 7. It's not been average. It's been a good season for Varane. He stepped up when we've needed him. I would give him a 7 this year. I tell you what, I'm bloody enjoying this. We're warming up now. I'm bloody enjoying this. I suppose, actually, a good one to go to after Varane quite quickly is Martinez. What would you give Martinez this season? Now, this is where it gets interesting because it's not that we don't like Martinez, but he was injured from August till January. Then he came back for a game and a half and he's been injured. So he's basically not played this season. And look, I get what will happen. There are people in the chat who are Player FC who will start throwing 7s and 6s out. He hasn't played. It doesn't mean we don't like him. We're talking about ranking him out of 10 for this season. Mason Mount's going to come at some point. Like, I completely disagree with the 6s. This is just people, I like Lisandro. That's not what we're doing here. This ain't some hate campaign, and it ain't some bloody BJ campaign either. This is about their score out of 10 this season, and that can be dictated to by bad form, injury, all sorts, off-field activity. He ain't played this season. Sorry. It can't be a 6. How can it be an average season for Martinez when he's not played? It's not his fault. But this is where people go wrong. They think if they give a player they like a low score, they're almost stabbing them in the back. Martinez himself would give himself a 4. He would say, I've not been playing. How can I be a contributor to the season? I've not been playing. So, look, vast majority are saying 6 or 5. I'm going to say, no, completely disagree. It's got to be a 4. I love Martinez. He's transformative, but he's played about 3 or 4 games this season. It can't be. It's not his fault. It's injury. But score rating this season, how can you give somebody... I can't wait till we do Rashford. You're going to be going 3, 3, 3. At least he's been fit. Martinez hasn't been fit. That's not his fault. He can't be a 6. It's got to be a 4. Got to be a 4 for me. Next play. This is why it's good. This is why I like it. This is why I like. I'm going to stick with the centre backs actually because it's got a theme going here. What would you give Harry Maguire this season? I'm just trying to, while you vote, I'm trying to give you what's happened this season. So look, start of the season, not in the team. Miles off the team, probably 4th choice centre back. I think around the autumn time he started playing, did quite well around the Brentford game. Then he went and got injured again, didn't he, for a couple of months. Came back, did okay again. And then he's been injured again. So he's probably been injured 50% of the season. And when he's played, he's done okay. I've got a number in my mind for Maguire. And it's not 5, which is below average. A lot of you are saying 6. I mean, to be honest with you, a lot of you are saying 7. No, 7's good. That's what we get Varane. You're going to give Maguire a 7? Maguire's had as good a season as Varane? Nah, can't have that. Disagree with your 7. Although a lot of people are going with 6 now, to be honest. Gary says an 8. Gary, you're blocked. Marvin says he's been average. I'm going to go with... Well, I think the score in the chat is 6.5. I'm going to go... Yes. Not a 7 for me. I'd agree with a 6, but I'm not going to disagree with a 6.5. I think, I don't really want to do 0.5s because there's 10 different scores, but I think he's been slightly better than average compared to where he was last year, but I wouldn't give him the 7 that Varane's got. So I think 6.5 in this case is a fair score to give. So well done on that. Make sure you smash a like on this video anyway. You prats! Players will be watching this, They will. Some of them will be watching. They will. Rasmus. He might be watching. What would you give Rasmus this season? So, 60 million signing, 20 years of age, only had 1 season at Atalanta, comes into the Premier League, the only striker we've got, top scorer in the Champions League, did really well. Took him a while to get going in the Premier League. Did an interview with the United stand. Couldn't stop scoring. Yeah. had a couple of injuries, was injured at the start of the season, had a couple of injuries. It's been a bit stop-start from Rasmus, but I think since Christmas, since that interview, it's been very much start. There's a lot of 7s. There's a lot of 8s. Daniel wants to give him a 9. Somebody else wants to give him more than a number. They put 2 numbers together. We're not having... Look, they've got a female has put 6 and 9. Well, for one, you can't... Oh, I've just realised. You can't go 6 and 9. There's a big gap. I just realised what they're doing. Filth in the chat. Right, okay, we've got a lot of 7s. Jaden's gone with a 7. Jay Ryan, one of our members, has gone with an 8. Complacency Killed the Cat has gone 7.5. Okay, we're sort of locked between 7 and 8 here. What we're going to give... Goldbridge will give him a 10 because he gave an interview. I'm going to go with... 8. 8 for me. I'm going to go with an 8. Most of you went with a 7. I'm going to go with an 8, and I'll explain why. I think that the responsibility this lad has had on his shoulders at 20 to lead the line for Manchester United, the most high-profile club in the world, that's got constant scrutiny. He's had people saying he's not good enough. He's had the fans backing him. It's been a mixed season, and then since Christmas, he's been bang at it. He has gone through an apprenticeship, which is different to Mainu. You know, Mainu's dropped into the midfield. He's been the focal point of our attack. Gets no service as well. I mean, remember what I said to you before about how Ivan Toney's nearly had the same amount of shots as he has, and Ivan Toney was suspended till middle of January. So gets no service. Survives on scraps. I think he's had a really good season. I'm going to give him a very strong 8. Robert McCormack says he got player of the month. Thank you very much. I think he's talking about Maguire. Dom says, hi Mark, don't even support United, but you have wanted to do a chat for ages. Really hope you're doing okay after what you said the other day. Thanks, Dom. Appreciate that. Jim says Varane should get 7.5 at least. I'm leaning to an 8. He's a Rolls Royce. And Lee Wolseley says, ending of $1 Million Baby is incredibly sad. Great film though. And Goldio says, off topic, but Nice can't just sell to Debo for less because of ownership connection. I'm a corporate lawyer and know they have to act in interest of shareholders, but also debtors. Not as simple as you made out. Well, I spoke about it this morning, Goldio. So I think you sort of come to the party a little bit late because I spoke about it on the morning show as to also Premier League rules say that it's got to be market value. Nigel says, I'm not even joking. I forgot Martial played for us, 2 out of 10. And Olive says, thanks for all the hard work. This community has helped me a lot during dark times. Keep it up. Thank you very much, mate. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to the Members Club. Vinay says, I love this type of content. Big up to the community and especially you, Mark. Hopefully Ineos starts sorting out the director of football and clearing out the trash. Thank you very much for that. Look, I love doing shows like this because some people get big guests on. They spend 20, 30 grand because they can afford it to get big guests on. I haven't got 30 grand. And the best guests are you. These are the best shows. Saddest film is E.T. Ian Jones, no, it's not. It's the fact that Rose lives at the end of Titanic. Selfish cow, not letting Jack on the door. I wish the whistle didn't work. And in fact, I wish that boat had turned up and said, stop whistling, you selfish sod. You can float on that door and freeze to death. You murderer. If you know, you know. Okay, let's go. Okay, Mark, about to drop the lowest ever rating on Malacia, says Jaden. I mean, I don't think we've even put Malacia in, but we'll have to wait and see about that one. Next player we're going to do is going to be... We've done Maguire. Victor Lindelof! Victor Lindelof! What are you going to say about him? Look, last season, I thought he stepped up to the plate. Last season. This season, I think up until probably February, very average. Last few weeks, you know, spoke about Varane, injury crisis. I think he stepped up to the plate again. So, you know, Lindelof for me, I have got a score in mind for Lindelof actually. A lot of 6s again. A lot of 6s. Robin wants to give him a 5. Solid season for him, says Jacob in detail, one of the members. Omran's a member, he says 6. Cad's a member, he says 4. Sally Devil Red 7, our moderator, says 5. Steady Eddie, says Luke, giving it a 6. Lots of 6s. I would say that Lindelof is sort of hovering around 5 to 6. Where's Goldbridge going to go? Does he agree with the 6? Tommy Berg's a member, he says 6. Yes, I do. I agree with you. I agree with you on this one. I'm going to say 6. I think it's been an average season for Lindelof. I think the majority of it has been pretty average. Last few weeks, he stepped up to the plate. I mean, he wasn't a very good left back, but he did do one for the team. I thought he played well against Liverpool when he was on the pitch. I thought he played well against Liverpool. But yeah, I think I'd agree with the 6 on Lindelof. Yes, I do. Let's stay with centre-backs, actually. I've got another one for you here. What about Jonny? What do you think about Jonny? I think that, you know what? When we signed Jonny Evans, it's not his fault. I like Jonny Evans. I feel like anything I say about Evans, I always feel I have to say I like Jonny Evans. We never should have let him go 10 years ago. That was stupid. That was the collection of worst sales we've ever done. Van Persie, Chicharito, Nani, Evans, and there was somebody else. Raphael. We got rid of them all in one summer for less than 20 million quid. And some of them were in their mid-20s. Stupidity. But look, we wanted Kim Min-jae, we wanted a top-class centre-back, and we got Jonny Evans on a free transfer. It was a crap deal that Jonny Evans turned into not a bad deal. And, you know, that's not Jonny Evans' fault. It was unambitious by the club to bring Jonny Evans in and not the centre-back we needed. Because, look, Jonny Evans has done a good job. It started with Burnley away, didn't it? I think he's been a really good signing for us as an individual. I have a score in my mind, and I'm going to have a look at what chat's saying. Goldio says, if Lindelof had more pace, he'd be worth keeping. Yeah, look, we've got Evans is 6.5. He's overhyped, says says Joa. Footy Edits is saying a 7. There are a few 7s dropping in. JP's giving him an 8. A few 6.5s. Right, I'd say most people are going with a 7 here. There's a lot of 7s going in. What do I think? Nearly hid my thumb then. I disagree with a 7. Sorry to be unpopular. I disagree with a 7. You set the score for Varane at 7. I can't say that Evans has been as good as Varane. What I will concede is you gave Maguire a 6.5. I would put Jonny Evans at a 6.5. I think that is where he's been. I think he's been very similar to Maguire this season. He's had some decent games in a backup role, and he stood up when we needed him. But I can't give him a 7 because that's what we gave Varane. So I think a 6.5 is fair, and certainly he has been a decent signing for us. There's no doubt about that. Okay, take a step back. We're about to get serious. This is going to be... There's some interesting ones to come here. You know... What are we saying here? Right, going into this season... Player of the season. Voted player of the season. I disagreed with that. I felt Casemiro was player of the season, but Rashford got it. Fair play. He scored a lot of goals. Going into this season, Marcus Rashford, player of the season. As early as October, people were saying drop him. It's never really got going. There's been moments. There's been the goal against Spurs. There's been the goal at the Etihad. There's been glimpses of what Rashford can do. But the majority of the season, I think he would admit himself, has been below where we would expect. Forgetting the off-field stuff. I don't think that's really that relevant. We're talking about what they've done on the pitch this season so far. And for these players, we've still got 2 months of very important games. So some of these players can still turn it around. We're getting a lot of 4s here. We're getting a lot of 4s. Rubbish, says Amiga, 4. Jordan Lewis says 4. Melody Malik's giving him a 7. Player FC. Sugar says 5. Soccer Junkie says 5. Jonathan Brooks says 4. We're getting a lot of 4s and quite a few 5s. Kian says he's not been average. That's a 6. Rashford, sorry, is my favourite, but he's had to be a 3.5 to 4, says Carl Simpson. I'd say the vast majority are giving a 4 here. There are a few 5s. There's a few 4.5s, but I think the vast majority are giving a 4. Do I agree with a 4? Yes. I think if I give a 5, I'll get absolutely slaughtered. Yeah, I think a 4. Average is 6. 5 is below average. 4 is poor. I think 4's right. I do. Look, honestly, I criticise Player FC and say that we need to bin that off and actually have a focus on Manchester United. Look, all I would say to Rashford is take it as a compliment. The fact that people are giving you a 4 means that they believe you're better than what you're doing. If you were crap and people thought you were crap, you'd probably get a 6, you know? So you're below the level people think you should be. A long way below the level people think you should be. You're not even having an average season. You're not having a below average season. You're having a poor season. So, yeah, look, by the standards he sets and by the standards he can play, he's having a poor season. I would agree. I don't think anybody could really agree with that, disagree with that. There's a few people saying a 5. Look, yeah, look, if you're giving him a 5, I haven't got a problem with it. I think that we're splitting hairs at the end of the day because it's below average, isn't it? It's a below average season, which by him, I don't think Rashford's going to be sat there tonight going, oh, I deserve a 5. It's still below average. It's still not good. It's different shades of not being good, isn't it? If you know, you know. Right, next one. We've done most of our centre backs. We should be hitting some fullbacks here. We are. Well. I'll be very interested to see what you've got here because remember, we need 4 candidates for player of the season. So Rasmus hit a 7.5. What is Dalot going to hit? I will say about Dalot since Christmas, amazing. Before Christmas, he's a weird player, Dalot. I've always liked him. Faz has always liked him. I've got to give him his credit there. But there's been a lot of people where you back Dalot. I've seen it in this chat. I've seen it online. He's been a divisive player. Some people haven't rated him. A lot of people wanted Wan-Bissaka to play ahead of him. But what he has done since Christmas is really go up through the gears and hammer home his position. And I think now, exclusively, he has most of the fan base on his side. And I think that's worth mentioning because before Christmas, he didn't. It was very 50-50. And the fact that he has the majority just shows how far he has improved this season. I thought he was brilliant up until the World Cup last season. And then obviously got injured and Wan-Bissaka sort of got his place. And this season, it's the reverse. You know, after Christmas, he's been brilliant. There's a lot of 7s. There's a lot of 8s. My account says I'd even give him an 8.5. Mahidi says I'd give him a 9 or an 8.5. Sugar wants to give him an 8. David McGrin wants to give him an 8.5. Sir Jim wants to give him a 7.5. I tell you what, you've got me on this one. It's difficult to sort of land on an average score. I think we're sort of... There's a lot of 7s and there's a lot of 8s. So, I mean... I think we're sort of saying a 9. Someone just said a 9 there. Lee Woolsey says, I think Rashford should get a 3 mark. The standards have to be higher for him. Top scorer, new contract. Fair point. It's not been nearly a good... I forgot about the new contract, actually. Good point by Lee. Lee also says, I think Dalot should get an 8. He's player of the season contender. He's been superb this season and doesn't get nearly the praise he deserves. John says Dalot is an 8.5 or a 9. And Ray says, 4 years I've been a member. Time flies. Ray, you are a legend. Thank you very much for your support. I'm going to say that your score is a 7.5 because we've got a lot of 7s and we've got a lot of 8s. Do I agree with the 7.5? I tell you what, I'm going to agree. But I nearly went for an 8. I agree with Terp that Dalot has been brilliant, and I very nearly went with an 8. And I think what I would like to say about Dalot is that 8 is basically yours if you finish the season the way you're going at the moment. I would more than happily throw him up to an 8 if he can continue this to the end of the season. So 7.5, I do agree with you on that as your average score. Right, who are we going to go for next? We've done Rashford. What should we do now? I'm not throwing every player in here because I think some of them have hardly played, but this guy is probably going to be quite interesting itself as well. You know, this is the season we've had, though. There are some up points, there's some average points, there's some down points. Look, Antony came into this season, and I think it was going to be a really important season for him. I think what derailed it was what happened off the pitch. You know, he had a pre-season. and then he didn't have a pre-season because he ended up getting suspended. A lot of things going off the pitch that we know. It's been a very up and down season. We saw that goal against Liverpool that got us back into the game. It was a big goal with his right foot. But how would you rate his season so far? I really don't know how Dalot could have had a better individual season. It's a 9, says Fuge. A lot of 4s for Antony. Yeah, a lot of 4s. How can you give Antony the same as Rashford, says Drexler? Is that a fair point? Is that a fair point there? There's a lot of 4s. Okay. Okay. Yeah, a lot of 4s. Do I agree with a 4? No, I do not. I actually agree with Drex. I think if you're going to give Rashford a 4, you've got to give Antony a 3. I think we've got to be fair here. Antony cannot have the same score as Rashford. Rashford's not had a good season, but he's played a lot more games. He's scored more goals. Antony's just not played hardly any games. He's not had as good a season as Rashford. And Rashford's not had a good season, but you can't give Antony and Rashford the same score. You have. You can. A lot of you are giving them the same score as 4. I'm not. I'm going to give Antony a 3, and I'll quantify it by this. There's definitely mitigating circumstances. His season's been derailed by what's gone off the pitch. I think it's had an impact on him. I still think he can be a Man United player, but I think this season was meant to be the season. Second season is where you kick on, and it's just not happened. And therefore, I think it has to be a 3 for me on that one. Okay, let's go for another fullback here. Let's go Wan-Bissaka. What do you think about Wan-Bissaka this season? Obviously, I think at the end of last season, he was probably our starting right back. I presume he's been injured. He has been injured after Christmas, but I can't remember at the start of the season whether he lost his place, he had his place, he got injured. I don't know. But what I do know is that Wan-Bissaka's been out of the team a lot this season. Brilliant against Liverpool, but across the whole season, it's been disappointing. As I said, he came into it as our starting right back. He's barely played as our starting right back, and it's, April now. We all know what he can do defensively, but I think it's been a disappointing season for a player where you know what you're going to get. You know what Wan-Bissaka is. He's a hard-working, focused defensive fullback, and he hasn't played anywhere near as much as I think he would have expected coming into the season. So this season so far, how would you rank him? We've got a lot of 5s, we've got a few 4s, and we've got a few 6s. So I would say you're going with a 5, below average season for him. I agree. I don't think he's had a horrific season, but I think by the standards he set at the end of last season, I would have expected him to kick on, and he's dropped down a gear. So I don't think when he's played, I don't think he's been terrible. And as we saw against Liverpool, he was very, very good. And he could have a very good end to the season as well, probably at left back. But I'd say based on the season so far, on where I thought he was going to be, I don't think it's been an average season. I think it's been a below average season. And I think he would admit it himself. So I would say a 5. Ray Cowley says, on Dalot going back, maybe missing someone, but has been the only player available all season. Yeah. And Eduardo says, is Rasmus player of the season? He's got the best score so far. Well, no, he hasn't, Eduardo. Dalot and Rasmus have got a 7.5 so far. So they've got a very good chance that they will be in your vote for player of the season. Can't have Martial higher than Antony. Come on, says MD. Yeah, well, it's a good point. It's a good point. I can argue with it. Stick with the fullbacks. What would you give Luke Shaw this season? It's hard to remember Luke Shaw, isn't it? Because it's hard to remember when he's been fit and when he's not been fit. He certainly got injured around November time. He came back when Martinez came back and got injured basically straight away. And he's going to be out. Well, Luke Shaw's probably missed 6 months of the season. And a season is about August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May. So he's missed well over half the season, hasn't he? Through injury. When he plays, he's massively important. So I think with Luke Shaw, Yeah, I've got a number in mind for sure. I've got I've got a number in mind for sure. Let's have a look what you lot are saying. Alex Barr says a 4. Daniel Perez says a 5. Alec Williams, one of our members, says 5.5. Anthony Maycock says 5. Ryan Martin says 6. Yeah, you know what? Every time he plays, he does well, but injuries have ruined it, says Usto. I think that's the best comment. Yes, I agree. I think this is quite a quick one. So I think most of you have gone with a 5. I've got to agree. I think it's the same with Martinez. What did we give Martinez? 5 or 4? Martinez is a brilliant player. He's just not been fit all season. You've got to mark him down because you can't give him an average 6 when he's not been available. And I think for Luke Shaw, it's got to be a 5. He's been available more than Martinez, but he's been unavailable too much. That's injury. It's not his fault. When he plays, when Martinez plays, they are really important players for us. But he's missed too many games. So it's got to be... You can't give Luke Shaw an average season when he's missed over half the season. So it's got to be a 5 for me. It's completely injury-based. It's not like Rashford or Antony or Martial or anybody else that, you know... Well, Martial's has been injury, to be fair. But this is not a performance-based score. This is an availability-based score. So it's a 5 for me from Luke Shaw, definitely. What do we got next? Right, we've still got a few to get through here. Got to ramp it up a little bit. Bloody hell, we have got a few to get through. Okay, this is a good one. Garnacho. I basically think that with Garnacho, he's gone from breakthrough player to starting player. I specifically remember last September saying that Garnacho needs to start the next 10 games, and he basically did. The overhead kick against Everton, some of the goals he's scored, some of the individual performances. Yes, there's been a couple of games where he's not really been in it, but he's 19. People forget that. I think that this has been the growing up season for Garnacho, where he's become a first team player on the starting lineup every week at 19 years of age. He's a strong contender for player of the season for me. I think we almost take him for granted. I do. I think that people champion maybe Dalot, maybe Rasmus ahead of him, but he's still only 19. You know, he's younger than Rasmus, he's younger than Dalot. And it's almost taken for granted that Garnacho's performances are expected. And actually, he's still very young. So I'm not looking at the live chat. I know what I'm going to give. So let's have a look at the live chat now. A few 7s, 7.5 from Joe Brindley. Quite a few 8s coming in as well. Homer says 8. He's slowed down a bit recently. Quite a lot of 7.5s. Farhad says 8.5. He had Hojlund type season but started from August. A few 7.5s. Janet says 7.5. A 9 from Ojana. Sugar says a strong 8. Architect Shinamore says 7.5. One of our members. Yeah, I think you're sort of teetering around a 7.5. There's a lot of 8s, a lot of 7s, and a lot of 7.5s. I'm going to go with Garnacho 8. I've said it for a long time. I think across the course of the season, Dalot really kicked on at Christmas. Rasmus really kicked on at Christmas. I feel Garnacho is the one player across the whole squad that has done it consistently. Not every week. No one's done that. But he is the player for me that from August to March has been consistent in the levels that when he's on it. So I would give him an 8. In my opinion, I would give Garnacho an 8. And he probably would be my player of the year. Although you're going to vote for that in a moment. Let's stick with the midfield. I think this is an easy one. Think Martinez. I think it's quite an easy one with Mason Mount. I mean, look, a really good player at Chelsea. That's the best thing I can say. A really good player at Chelsea. I still picture him in a Chelsea shirt. Like, that just shows you how little he's been in a Man United shirt. Of course, as a signing, it's not a flop. It's just a really unlucky first season at the club. He's not played any football. Like, he's just not played any football. So, the vast majority are going with a 4. Yeah, it's got to be. I don't want to be as harsh to give him a 3 because we haven't done that with Martinez and we haven't done that with Shaw, and they've been injured a lot as well. He's a new signing. There is no CV at Man United. I feel with Mason Mount, hopefully the journey starts now. So it's got to be a 4 because it can't be average. It can't be below average. It's poor. But it's poor because of injury. Simple as that. I don't think there's anything more we need to say. On Mason Mount. Okay. Yeah, we've done Luke. Okay, this is a good one. Casemiro. Last season, I think he was player of the year. Obviously, he's had a couple of injuries. At the start of the season, you had a lot of people saying his legs have gone. I completely disagreed with that. I thought in the second half against Aston Villa, he was world class a few weeks ago. He's been overrun a lot, but so's Mainu. Like, we've seen the problem with our midfield. It matters not if Casemiro starts or Mainu starts. If they play with Bruno and McTominay, you get overrun because those two players just want to get forward. So Casemiro's legs haven't gone. He's had no support. And we've seen that with Mainu when he's played holding midfielder in certain games. The way our midfield's set up with the deep line, we just get run through. We saw it against Fulham the other week. So it's been a hard season for Casemiro. You know, he's had injuries. He's been in a midfield where he's on his own a lot. By his high standards, I've got to score. Okay, Casemiro, let's have a look. Alien says a 5. Savage says a 4. LeBron, this is a football channel, apparently. Liam says 6. Arthur says 7. Horrible season says Savage. 5 including injuries and his standard says Owen Frank. 7 says Jose. Sapika says 5.5. Injuries again with Casemiro. His legs aren't as good as these days. It's got to be a 6. I'll tell you what, this is probably the most varied one we've had so far. There's a few 5s, there's a few 6s, there's a few 7s. Remember, 6 is average, 7 would be good, 5 would be below average. I don't know what I'm meant to be agreeing with here because I can't see a consistent score coming through. But I'm going to say a 5. I think it's a 5. I think by Casemiro's standards, it's not an average season. I think he's had the injuries as well. I think he's played in that midfield that's been overrun. Not his fault. I would say it's been a below average season for Casemiro because he is so good. Like last season, he was the reason we got top 4. And this season, we haven't seen the same player. I think that's been because of injury. I think that's because the way the midfield's been set up. I think it's because the way the defence is playing deep. But I think it's been a tough season for Casemiro. And I would say a 5 for him this season. Okay, we've got some good ones left. We've got 4 left, and they're all good. Right, this is going to be interesting. This is probably the one. This is one of the 3 that I've been looking forward to doing the most. Make sure you smash a like on the video. We're nearly at 1,000 likes, by the way. So what would you give Bruno Fernandes this season? Captain of the club. I mean, he will play with a broken leg. His availability is incredible. There's no doubt about that. But there's also no doubt that he is nowhere near the player that we know he can be. So what would you give Bruno Fernandes this season? We've got Let Him Speak saying 6. We've got Sean saying 6.5. We've got Joel saying a 7. We've got Sapika, one of our members, saying a 5.5. Jerry says 5. Donovan says 4. Mick Jones says a 6. David McBrin, 6.5. Truck says 7. A lot of members in the chat, which is lovely to see. Get your badge in and support the channel. Arthur says a 5. Cody says a 5.5. MD says 5. Rolando says Bruno's my favourite midfielder, but it's got to be a 5. I'd say the average score here is probably somewhere around a 6 or a 5.5. Do I agree with that? No. It's a 5 for me. I'm like Rolando. Bruno Fernandes is one of my favourite players. Casemiro is one of my favourite players. I gave Casemiro a 5 because I think by his standards he's been below average. Bruno Fernandes, I am not falling into the player FC thing. I will not do it. I love Bruno Fernandes as a player. I've said all season he's nowhere near the player he is. Look, I give him a 10 for effort and availability. I'm not questioning his dedication to the cause. I'm not questioning his passion for this football club, but he's at Bruno Fernandes, the footballer, in a Man United shirt this season, nowhere near what he can do. It's got to be a 5. It's got to be below average. He is not at the level, and he knows that. He said it last week. He is not at the level he should be. He knows that. And there may well be mitigating circumstances, of course. But it's not an average season for Bruno. No way. No way at all. It's a below average, in my opinion. Okay, next one. Oh, from one to another. One to another. Sister and a brother, Scott McTominay. Look, by his standards, where would you put him this season? Even I've got to think about this one, you know. Because, look, an average for, you know, Casemiro average 6 is probably a 10 for McTominay. Like, a McTominay 6 and a Casemiro 6 is completely different. Like, if you think, for me, if McTominay puts a 6 in, it's not a great performance. It's just an average McTominay performance. So, you know, when we give Rashford a 4, it's poor because we know what he can do. You can't really give McTominay a 4 and say he's been poor, because then you're saying he can be better than what he is. I think he has to start minimum 6 because he scored goals. Like, we know what McTominay is. If he scores a goal, he has a good game. If he doesn't score a goal, he's not very good at passing. He's not particularly good at tackling. He's a good defensive and attacking player in the air. But I think you've got to be realistic. Look, I agree. I agree with the chat for once. I do. I can see a lot of 7s. Quite a few 6s. Scott is the most dead on 6 this season, says Joel. 6.5 for Tevin. David says 5. He goes missing way too much. Someone wants to give him a 10. Savage says brilliant, fantastic season he's having. Probably his best season in a while. This is a best season, says Savage. McTominay has been brilliant. He gives everything for the badge and is willing to play anywhere. But that's not, mate. That's not. We're not Stoke. Like, I'm not going to start banging my chest because somebody runs around in a Man United shirt. Come on, we're better than that. Ricky will be screaming at this if you don't give him an 8. Okay, I'd say the majority are sort of going 7 here. Do I agree with it? I do. I agree with the 7. I do. Look, I've given McTominay a lot of stick and I still think we need to sell him. But for what he is, he hasn't had an average season. An average season for him is, you know, we beat Brentford. He scored quite a few goals this season. I think by his standards, which I don't think are that high, you've got to say he's had a good season. He scored a lot of goals. He ain't nowhere near good enough to start for Man United, but based on the player he is, you've got to give him a 7. You've got to cut him a bit of slack. I don't want him anywhere near the starting lineup, but across this season, he's scored a few goals. I'd give him a 7. Yeah, I think it's a fair thing to do. Okay, we've got 3 left here. Let's do Amrabat first. I mean, Amrabat is in because we brought him in on loan. High expectation. A lot of us wanted him. When's this deal going to happen? But the warning signs were there. No pre-season because he was on strike with Fiorentina. Comes to Manchester United with no pre-season. We play him at left back. Then he gets an injury. International breaks. Before you know it, it's November. Did quite well at Anfield. Played quite well against Bayern Munich. Went off to the African Nations of Cup. February. Comes back. It's just been... You know what? I feel for him because most players need a run in the team. And he's just never been able to have that. But I also think the hint is in what Ten Hag has done. He's chosen McTominay, Eriksen, Mainu, Casemiro. He's way down the pecking order. So, yeah, of course, no pre-season, injuries, disruption. Yeah, they are mitigating circumstances. But it's also glaringly obvious that Ten Hag doesn't rate him because there's been opportunities where he could have gone for him over certain other players and he hasn't. So I think it's been a failure. And he's got no chance of staying at the club. Mario Franco says if you take away the goals, McTominay would be at a 4. LeBron says 7. If it wasn't for him, United would be 12th. 9 goals and 3 assists. 7 is absolute minimum, says Robert McCormack. Who, actually, if you want to know, Robert McCormack runs the Scott McTominay fan club. If you get in the chat, he'll send you the details and your direct debit form. Not a coincidence he plays well when Martinez plays, says Mario Franco, in relation to Casemiro. Okay, a lot of 4s, quite a few 5s. I'd say the average is a 4. Yeah, I'd agree with you on that one. I'd agree with a 4. I think a 4 is the right score there. Yeah, it's been poor. It's not been below average. It's been poor. This is a player that's meant to be a player for our future. He's a new signing. I know it's a loan deal, but yeah, it's been poor. The fact that we've known pretty much since Christmas that we won't be signing him just shows you how poor it's been, really. So yeah, definitely a 4 there. Christian Eriksen. Interesting, Christian Eriksen. What would you say on him? I mean, looking at Eriksen's season, it's just been... I don't even know if he's been injured. Obviously, he had the injury from Andy Carroll in January last season. He came back in the April, never really got going. This season, despite injuries, he did play a little bit at the start of the season, but I remember the Arsenal game, just not picking up the runners. He's really struggled. He's really struggled, Eriksen, this season. And I put it down to... I think that Andy Carroll injury ruined him. I've never really been convinced that he's a number 6 or a number 8 anyway. He just hasn't got the legs for that. And I'm very surprised at how we've utilised Eriksen at Manchester United. It worked last year, Casemiro, Eriksen and Bruno, but then it didn't work in certain games. But it did work for the majority of the season. It's not worked at all this year. And yeah, I think I know what I'd give him. No legs, he's done, says somebody there. 5.5, barely played but been good when he has, says Joel. Barely played, Eriksen, 4, no idea, says Tommy. Jordan Lewis says 4. He's solid 7, but Ten Hag underrates him really, says Dunkey. Okay, I don't know what football he's been. I think he's been playing FIFA. Eriksen is good if he has his chance. His passes are supreme, says Crafted Tunes. Man United should be looking for Braithwaite in the summer. Okay, you're on the wrong show. And don't you miss Sabitzer, Mark? No, Amir, I don't. Tony Man United says 4. Ashik wants to give him a 9. I'm pissed. 8 for everyone, says Kevin Good. At least he admits it. Okay, I think the vast majority is a 4 there. And yes, of course, I agree with that. I think it's been a poor season for him. Rhaegar's been a member for 12 months. One of the worst players ever to play for Man United, says Robert McCormack, in relation to Amrabat. And Anonymous is a new member. Thank you very much. Get your badge in. Lee says, I have an ICD in my chest like Eriksen does. It was an inspiration to me when we signed him, but we can't be sentimental. He's not up to it anymore. No, look, I think look, I may be completely wrong. My theory on Eriksen is the tackle by Andy Carroll basically did him. Okay, Mainu. Where are we going to go with this? Now, look, hipster, recency bias. Let's not forget he didn't start playing until November, and it's March. Dalot, Rasmus, Garnacho have been playing all season. Rasmus and Dalot got a 7.5. Garnacho got an 8. Where are you going to go with Mainu? Who is 18, coming through the academy? So that's another mitigating factor. We're getting a lot of 8s here. There's a few 7s. Delusional says a 7. We're getting a lot of 8s. He's even a few 9s, of course. Wakas says it's a 9. My player of the year says Carl Simpson, 9. Veronica says an 8. Marvin AM says, what did Marvin say? 7.5. Joa says 8. Dave Smith says 8. Okay. A lot of you saying an 8. Yeah, I do agree. And the reason I agree is because unlike Dalot, unlike Garnacho, unlike Rasmus, this is an untested kid from the academy. He's been playing I think his first game was holding midfield against Everton at Goodison Park. The maturity and, as Ten Hag said, the ability to just go in and perform whatever it is, an England debut, St James's Park, it's incredible for such a young player. So yeah, I think it has to be an 8 for me. I think that's our last player, but it's not the end, because now you're going to vote for your player of the season based on our top 4. So this is where you do get to vote. It's not just about writing a score. So our top 4 players have been Garnacho, Dalot, Rasmus, and Mainu. And, you know, that's up for voting now. But what I would say is, it's interesting, isn't it? We've marked every player, every significant player, out of 10 on their season so far. And they're the 4 that came out comfortably on top. And Rasmus is just 21. Garnacho is 19. Kobe Mainu is 18. And Dalot is pretty young himself. We've got Varane, Casemiro, Bruno, Rashford. And our top 4 is none of those. Onana for 50 million quid. Mason Mount for 55 million quid. Antony cost 80 million quid. So this season's been what I'm trying to say is this season's been really weird, hasn't it? The positive is we've got these younger players coming through, and they're very, very exciting. The negative is more senior players haven't stepped up to the plate for whatever reason this season. But that means there's a lot of potential there, of course. Keep your votes coming in. We're going to announce who your player of the season so far is in a moment, voted by you. For me, I'd give it Garnacho because I think he's done it across the season. But I'm happy with all 4 of those, really. I genuinely don't have an issue with any of them. I really don't. Okay. I'm going to get... Right, I'm just going to do this. It's close. It's really, really close. But we've got, in 4th place, I'm surprised it's so low. I mean, for me, it should be a lot higher. Maybe it's... I don't know what it is. I'm very surprised it's got a low score, actually, because I would have put these a lot closer than they are. But what we've got here is... And get your vote in, because we've got 7,000 watching, but we've only had 1,500 votes. So make sure you get voting, because I want to get as many votes as possible. I'm going to wait for a moment, actually. I want to get at least a couple of thousand votes on this. Please smash a like on the video and subscribe. Garnacho slightly overhyped, says Pikes. I don't think he's overhyped. I think he's the one player that's done it consistently across the season, in my opinion. Hacker says I'd go for Garnacho. Rashford's been a 2, simple as that, says Aiden. Do you think if Gary O'Neill came in, he could take over from Ten Hag, says Ajit? Well, Gary O'Neill spoke today and said it's a load of bollocks. Any story about him is a load of bollocks. Definitely 7.5. His potential is as big as Onana's booty, says LeBron. Mainu wants to take players on, create space, disrupt formations, ticks all the boxes for me, and I love that spin. I love that. I love that people are seeing that as well. He's a formation disruptor, definitely. Okay, we've just about got... Dalot's been consistent, says Yuri. We've just about got 2,000 votes here. So, Rasmus is in 4th place with 7% of the vote. Mainu is in 3rd place with 24% of the vote. Garnacho is in 2nd place with 33% of the vote, meaning Dalot is your vote for player of the season so far with 35% of the vote. And that has not tracked any differently despite the votes still going up. We've gone from 1,700 to 2,200 literally while I've been talking with you. So there you go. Smash a like on the video for Dalot. He is your player of the season so far, narrowly over Garnacho, with Mainu in 3rd and Rasmus in 4th. Big shout out to those 4 players. Of course, what I would say is we've still got 2 months of the season left. And any one of those players could end up being player of the year. Any one of them could be. And any of those players that have scored badly could still jump up in the next 2 months. It's been an absolute pleasure doing this show with you tonight. It's been a work when it's interactive, but that's what we do. You know, I want your opinions. You are the voice. You are the people. You are the people that matter the most. You are the fans. Simple as that. So thank you everybody for getting involved with that tonight. Second time we've done that this week after start bench sell on Sunday. But of course, real football comes back tomorrow. I'm back in the morning with the 10 o'clock show. But tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, Manchester United go to Brentford, and we've got to bloody win. It starts there. Rashford hat-trick. Come on, let's do it. Faz has busted a nut here in this, says LeBron. Could we rank Ten Hag? Says, yeah. Well, no, it's about players, so I don't think we need to bring Ten Hag into it. He knows what you've got to do. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care. Absolute legends. I'll speak to you tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Have a fantastic day, evening, whatever you're doing. I'll speak to you in a bit.